All right, what's going on, Bulls Nation? As promised, we are going to take a look at some pros and cons of signing Kevin Durant in a Chicago Bulls uniform. We're going to discuss that right after this.
Get the lowdown on one of the most iconic basketball teams in the world. You're listening to Chicago Bulls Nation.
All right, so as you guys know, signing Kevin Durant will come in a price. And with that price, comes the pros and cons. So today we're just going to talk about the pros. We're staying positive today. So why should the Bulls trade for Kevin Durant? Besides, there's some obvious reasons for that, but let's run through them. One of them is win now. We're in a win now mode. We basically mortgaged our future when we acquired both Vooch and DeMar. We traded 3 picks for them. We didn't trade 3 picks just to, build for the future. We're built to win in the next 2-3 years. Now 2 years, because DeMar is gonna, he's gonna be what, like 35 when his contract runs out. So we need to win right now. And yes, young assets are great, but again, we need to win now. If we don't win now, there's kind of like a moot point of trading those picks, because why get an older player if that's not your goal, right? So, and that's one of them. The second one is pertaining to those young assets, is there is no guarantee. And we try to protect those assets, draft picks, Patrick Williams, Ayo Dosunmu. We always think highly of them, and rightfully so. They are our players, and we want them to succeed. And we want them to be stars, all stars, future Hall of Famers and all that stuff. The reality is there's no guarantee for all of that. There's none. I mean, there's so small sample size of Patrick Williams at this point that we don't know if he's the second coming of Kawhi or Luol Deng, or a hybrid between the two. I mean, there's nothing wrong about, being Luol Deng. He's an all-star. But if, we've been holding on to him, and for him to be the kind of block for the Kevin Durant trade, again, there's no guarantee that our young studs are going to be studs in the future. Well, there's one guarantee. Kevin Durant is a really, really good basketball player. And wherever he goes, you're pretty much a contender. That's just the reality of it. And, we'll see what happens. And, and the third one would be, it would solve 2 issues for the Bulls. Because what is our 2 issues? Power forward and shooting. Well, rim protection, but that's another issue that we do have. And Durant can play defense, if he wants to, and for the most part he does. But he's a power forward, because of his length and size, and he also is a very good shooter. I don't know if you guys noticed, but his name is Easy Money Sniper, and he is a darn good player. And he basically solves those 2 issues of who's going to be our starting power forward, which is be him. And as far as shooter, he would draw defense out of the lane. That would be, such an amazing thing for DeMar and or Zach, because I firmly believe one of those guys are going to be traded in a deal with Durant, because the Nets are looking for an all-star player. But yeah, they do solve 2 of the issues for that. The fourth one is that he's signed in for 4 years contract with the Bulls or wherever he goes. So this is not a Kawhi Leonard situation where it's a one and done, where you don't want to really trade assets, because if you do, he'll just leave you the following year. I mean, we're talking about Kevin Durant, so he might still leave you the following year and ask for a trade, although I highly doubt that. If he chose Chicago, and we're talking about that, like, hey, he doesn't have a say on this. It's, the Nets, they don't need to trade him. And that is true. But a player of this caliber normally does have a say on where he goes. And again, this hypothetical thing that we're talking about, granting maybe he would love to play for Chicago. Because if I was KD, this is the best place for him to go. If I was him, I'm not saying this is the best return that the Nets can get, but can you imagine him bringing the title back to Chicago for about 20 years now, since Michael Jordan or more? And not only that, this is going to be his team. He's going to be cemented here. This is, it's not like, yes, if he goes to Pelicans, for example, the Nets would have a tremendous amount of assets. But is that team ready to win right now if he goes to the Pelicans? Because, yeah, you're going to have CJ McCollum. and I presumably, like Brandon Ingram is going to be traded for him. So you're going to play with Zion, who's played 84 games throughout his career and all that stuff, in Toronto, which is, once you factor in everyone that's going to be traded, he's going to play with either Siakam or Scotty Barnes. So I don't know if they're quite ready yet. Compared to the Bulls, like, he most likely would play with Vooch, an all-star, with either of Zach or DeMar, either one of the two. Then the bench are pretty stout as well, with Alex Caruso, Derrick Jones Jr. I don't even know what's going to be the structure of the trade, but he's still going to have some pieces around him if he does come here. So that's one of the, a 4 more years. And the last one will be instant contender. Like I mentioned earlier, wherever Durant goes, he could go to Detroit Pistons right now, and Detroit would be a contender. That's just the impact of Durant. And as we talked earlier, as my first point, we're built to win now. Although maybe that's not their goal, but trading 3 first rounders, I would think they want to come close. And by getting Durant, like down the line as well, you might not get the compensation that you're going to give Brooklyn at the moment. I don't even know what that means. 3 first rounders, an all-star, and a young talent. I would say just 2 first rounders for that case. But let's say 3 first rounders, all unprotected. And then at the time, let's say he's 36. Look at Chris Paul. He's still at a high level. And don't tell me no one's going to trade for Chris Paul right now. If some team, maybe not for 4 first rounders, but you could recoup some of the assets if you decide in the future you want to move forward. Because let's be honest, he's still a marquee name. He's still a marquee player. So you could, if once you acquire an asset like Durant, you can always get a return just in case things doesn't pan out. And let's say when he's in 2 years from now, he's 36, or 3 years from now, he's 37, there's going to be a contending team that would try to get KD to put them over the hump. And they would still pay. They would still pay like a first rounder or so. If Chris Paul asks for a trade tomorrow, I can see a lot of teams giving up first rounder for him. At the very least. Because like I said, this kind of players, they could swing the tide. They might be the missing piece. So these are the the pros of signing Kevin Durant. He signs with the Bulls. We are a contender. There's no question about it. We are going to be a contender. Are we going to be favorite in the East? I love our chances. Depending on the package, but let's assume it's Durant. Let's assume it's either DeMar or Levine, and then Patrick Williams and Kobe White, and 3 first rounders, for example. I like our chances. I really do. Yeah, we just need to pick up, a backup 4, maybe a wing player here and there, but it's a solid lineup of Lonzo, let's say Ayo, whoever the 2 guards would be, Seth Curry, whoever you want to put in there, Zach or DeMar, and then you put KD and Vooch. My God. If they take Vooch and Kobe and all that stuff, that's even better. That's a killer lineup right there. But I highly doubt it's going to happen. But can you imagine? But let me know in the comments how you feel about this. And we're going to talk about the cons for this in another video. So for this, let's enjoy this. And thank you for watching. Subscribe to the channel. And I'll see you in the next one.